This is going to be tough to say. Mega Man X is not a good game. I've heard so many great things about this title, only to play it and be greatly disappointed. Wait, stop. That's not the game I was talking about. Yes, that is Mega Man X, but that's the amazing Super Nintendo original and one of the most replayable games, in my opinion. Sorry for baiting you like that, but I was talking about that one version of Mega Man X you can take on the go. I mean, what were they trying to accomplish with this release? Were they trying to dissolve the goodwill of the franchise? Stop! That's Maverick Hunter X. It's a badass reimagining of Mega Man X and gives the experienced players a really good challenge. That's not the game I'm talking about. I'm talking about the mobile version of Mega Man X. This released on the iPhone and iPad back in 2011 and is unanimously disliked by the play... I refuse to believe those positive reviews are real. Anyways, that's what we're going to be taking a look at today, but before we do, let's hear a word from our sponsor. If you're looking for a new PC, good news. We've partnered with Apex Gaming PCs to bring you all some pretty sweet systems. Whether you're looking for something modest, wanting to go overkill, or wanting something in between, we've got you covered with 3 pre-built PCs that myself and Apex Gaming PCs have worked on together. You can go with the Chaos PC, Super PC, or the Master PC. And I'll be honest, the names are pretty great. It's almost like they should use these names for some kind of stone or gem or something like that. Anyways, you can use the discount code GottaBeFrank for up to $250 off your purchase. With that said, let's get to the video. For the sake of this video, I'll be playing on my iPad, which means there will be this constant border outside the boundaries of the game. Doesn't really matter since the game does the same thing on iPhones. The presentation is going to be the first thing the player will notice, and all I can say is that this release is soulless. I mean, look at the opening! The original has this awesome login screen that leads into Details of X by Dr. Kane. The iOS version has this super simple summary of the Day of Sigma short that came with Maverick Hunter X and the X Legacy Collection. And this is going to be a constant thing throughout the game. The text box and the text is just plain, it's generic. It reminds me of the older Final Fantasy re-releases, but even those had a bit more effort put into the UI. Since we are looking at the game, what the hell is this? It's like one of those gross, disgusting emulator filters that make the game look not so pixelated. Actually, I think the filters managed to look better. Never mind. They're both pretty gross, but I think the emulator has the advantage at running at 60 FPS rather than looking like a Flash game. Seriously, I'm playing this on an iPad Pro. Why can't it run any better than this? Oh, also, the life bar is uneven. To some, this is going to be a bit of a nitpick, but hear me out. Whenever a game has uneven scaling because you're trying to enlarge it to fit the display, rather than using an integer scale, you're going to notice that the health bar is uneven. Maybe it's the zoomed-in game. I mean, the game did present itself this way, so why don't I fix it with... oh, it's still uneven. For the sake of the rest of this review, the game did start with this as my default, so I'm going to be going with this as my gameplay, which does come with a bit of screen crunch, as you can tell. Anyways, let's keep it to the visuals because you might have noticed the massive on-screen D-pad and buttons, and I'm here to tell you, this is an uncomfortable way to play the game. Unfortunately, this setup is the only way I can get to playing how I play the SNES version. So you have 2 buttons to start, which isn't bad, but once you get the leg parts, the 3rd button isn't there. The reason being is that there's 3 ways to execute the dash. You can double tap the D-pad in the intended direction like the original game. You can press down and jump like the portable games such as Extreme 1 and 2. Finally, you can enable the dash button. I find the first 2 to be unintuitive, so I went with the dash button. Along with that will be this weird claw thing I had to do so I can play it properly. For shooting enemies, the game makes it easier on the player by automatically charging the X-Buster, and also the special weapons. I can see this working for mini-bosses and Mavericks, but I only really found the auto X-Buster charge option to be ideal. And then I can charge the sub-weapon on my own. I want to bring up one more annoying thing about the game. The D-pad. It has a circular design that looks presentable, but if you tap way too close to the middle, you start to press more than one direction, which really messes me up. Especially when trying to do stuff like grabbing onto a ladder. Hey, just a quick note, there is an option to turn on auto-climbing ladders, but I feel like that would get in the way. That's why I disabled it. If I had to give the game some props, it has to be the auto hold onto walls. It does get in the way sometimes, but for the most part, it's easier to dash off of them. Only because of the very unusual control scheme we have going on. If you feel the game's a little hard to play and you need some help, you can buy all of the upgrades separately, or you can buy them together for $4. These are pretty much cheats that are just the unlockables in the game. No thanks. I did one playthrough of this game and one of the SNES original to have an idea of what to look for. You'd be forgiven for thinking that the mobile version was just a 1-to-1 low frame rate version of the original, but nope. Not only does it look like a cheap imitation, it handles events and gameplay in a similar way as well. For example, defeating Chill Penguin puts out the Fire and Flame Mammoth stage, and makes this heart container accessible. In the mobile game, the fire's still there, so the heart container had to be moved to accommodate this change, or lack thereof. Stages are not affected by defeating Mavericks in other stages, which really takes away the connection they had in the original. One of the laziest solutions that I've seen was, if you defeat all 8 Mavericks, then you have this cutscene between X and 0. You don't get it in the mobile version until you play the first Sigma stage. It goes into the cutscene, then they go up, then they come back down in a similar looking area to go on through Sigma stage 1. It's the stupidest thing you could do. Earlier I was talking about defeating Mavericks, so speaking of that, they are pretty easy. Okay, I used their weakness to fight most of them, but even then, with the X-Buster, you could do a lot of damage to one. And before somebody asks about the difficulty, because there are 3 difficulty options, easy, normal, and hard, I was playing this on normal mode. You can tell the difference because one of them has some of the pits covered up, and normal mode leaves these stages untouched. I chose not to play hard mode because I really didn't care to play this game any longer. That, and I assumed the normal difficulty would be standard for the game and close to the original. Turns out I was wrong, because this game is a cakewalk. Other things include the game giving me full sub-tanks at the start of every level, allowing the charged rolling shield to destroy enemies it wouldn't in the original, which made me feel almost invincible at times. And finally, it made the Hadouken easier to obtain. Rather than going through Armored Armadillo stage a few times with all of the upgrades, you only have to do it once. I also hate Dr. Light's pun here. The button command is also simpler because the game doesn't support diagonal inputs. If only they were more accurate. There isn't much to tear apart because it all boils down to the fact that the game doesn't control well because of its digital controls. The game's performance, even on a device that was released years later, is on par with those Mega Man mobile releases. And because after this I'm getting back to my classic Mega Man marathon, we'll get to that in due time. And yeah, I've been talking about gameplay, but back to the graphics. The graphics were an interesting idea, but the performance, it just hurts to look at. And it does get in the way in stages like Spark Mandrill, where there's constant darkness, but every now and then the light turns back on. The low frame rate really gets in the way of that, so you're kind of making leaps of faith if you're not sure what to do. But hey, at least the music is Mega Man X music. It's not compressed, it's not ruined in any way, shape, or form. Hell, I even glossed over the fact that you can buy arranged music for the low price of $3. I wonder what it sounds like. It's just Maverick Hunter X music. I mean, it's not bad. I actually do enjoy the Maverick Hunter X soundtrack, but why was this not an unlockable? Everything else in the store is unlockable, why not this? And that's Mega Man X on iOS. I thought I would have more to say on it, but it just ends at, it's a garbage mobile recreation that misses a lot of details from the original, and that's all I got out of it. It's not fun to control, though Bluetooth controller support would have made it a lot better. It looks like a cheap Flash game, and there's no reason for this game to exist anymore. Mega Man X is available on consoles and PC, and there's a better remake out there with Maverick Hunter X on PSP and PlayStation Vita. As for my justification for making this video, well, I'm curious by nature. I've been curious about this title for a very long time. I just wanted to see what was going on with one of the weirder Mega Man releases on mobile. Thank goodness Mega Man X Dive has been able to prove that there can be a good Mega Man mobile title, even if it is free to play, but that's a story for another time. And I think that'll do it. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out today's video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like and share the video around. You can also sub if you're new, and that would be greatly appreciated. At this time, I want to thank all of my supporters at the Chaos tier. They will have their names scrolling on screen somewhere, but the Super tier members get a verbal shout-out. They are Dork in a Hat, Tactical Discord, Martin YT Plays, and Ryan Rolfs over on Patreon. If you want to help out the channel as well with a monthly contribution, you can use the join button below this video, or you can use my Patreon link at patreon.com/GottaBeFrank. Lowest tier is $1, and I appreciate everyone who supports the channel. And with that said, I hope you all have a wonderful and safe day, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.